Tremendous here, and I got another book review here for you. This one is a book called Permian, Emissary of the Extinct, and it's by an individual named, and I'm probably going to butcher this, and I apologize in advance, Devin Reguria. Oh, God, I'm sorry if I screwed that up. It is about 221 pages long. It was published in June 30th, 2019. It is currently, as of this recording, number 4 in the hard science fiction Kindle store. And I got it with my subscription to Kindle Unlimited. It looks like right now it's free to download via ebook. I'm not sure. It's showing 0 to buy. But you can also get it for $9.99 in paperback format. This individual reached out to me on Reddit in order to read and review his book, and I'm happy that he did because this is probably the most intelligently written and hard to follow book I've read ever. And just so you know what I'm talking about, this is non-spoiler, but here is a single line of dialogue that I think sets the tone for how this whole book reads. And here's the line. A potent choice of words, Your Honor, and an opportune foundation from which to support my initial postulation. The outcome of this tribunal should be my immediate release in light of time served. That's the line. It's just like that the entire time. It is written. This guy might be a super genius, and it was an interesting story. Basically, they find something in Russia, Siberia to be more specific, that honestly, I don't fully understand why it took us so long to find these things. And in the spoiler side, I'll get to all that. But they bring in American PhDs, college professors. The ones that are prevalent in this book are from Berkeley, out in California. Although there's doctorates and PhDs from everywhere. It's a little ridiculous. But it's this weird humanity project because they discover that these glyphs that they find all along the ridge of this thing that they find are basically like a map, like a road map that shows when and how severe extinction level events are going to be throughout Earth's history. And they're made so there's billions of these little hieroglyphics basically that are along the ridge line of this situation that they find in Siberia, where I don't want to spoil anything, which is why I'm being elusive. And they bring these people in to figure out, and they determine that it not only do these little hieroglyphs that they find, pictograms, whatever you want to call them, show all the extinction level events that have happened throughout Earth's history, but it's our own, and they're trying to figure it out and see if we can't circumvent it. People panic. It's very, very odd, and it's just the way it's written and the high level of speech that everybody uses. I'm not the smartest man in the world. I'll be the first person to friggin' admit that. I'd be the first one to raise my hand. I have an associate's degree, all right? That's as high as my intellectual learning went. And this one, I feel like I needed a tutor in order to follow this book all the way. Another issue I have with the book is every single person talks the same way. Every single person talks the same way. They all have the same speech patterns. They all have the same way of talking. They all have the super intelligent way of talking. And I get these are supposed to be super intelligent people that are leads in their field and everything, but come on. I mean, dumb it down a little bit. When you're writing a book for the masses, you got to make it so that the masses understand it. And most of us are unwashed. I got to be honest with you. I feel like Stephen Hawking would call a lot of these people for advice because, damn, it blows my mind. A lot of it was it was too hard for me to follow. Maybe it was because of that, or maybe I missed it, but the whole book is like the beginning and the middle of the book is focused on the extinction level event of humanity. It never tells you when it's going to happen. It never tells you how it's going to happen, but it's going to happen, and soon. But that's it. And barring any spoilers, we'll get to that in a minute. But they all group up. All these people are brought in through clandestine means to try to study and figure out how and when this is going to happen. But by the end of the book, it's like they forgot why they're there. It's never figured out. It's never determined. There's no course of action. There's no knowledge gleaned. Their whole focus seems to have shifted to another situation, which, while interesting, it threw me off. And again, maybe it's mentioned, maybe it's talked about, maybe it's thoroughly understood and explained in the book, and I just didn't understand it because this book is smarter than I am. This author is smarter than I am. This book is smarter than I am. I did my best, but because I had trouble following it, because every single person, it was difficult to understand who was talking because they all talked the same. They all spoke in the same manner. They all had the same speech patterns. Just there was no differential in between one individual and another. I had no idea who was talking. It was very difficult to follow. And then in the end, I just didn't feel like the main issue was prevalent to any of these people anymore. Nobody seemed to understand anything more than from the original reason they were there. Their attention gets focused on something similar, but they never get their answers, and it's frustrating. So honestly, I didn't hate this book. I did not hate it at all. I enjoyed this book. It was a challenge. It was very hard to read. It's super well written. The formatting, I didn't find any errors or anything like that. It is very well written, very intelligently written, super high level verbiage used throughout the entire book. Dialogue, description, it's very long-winded. Getting a straight answer out of any of these characters, forget about it. It's not going to happen. They all really like to talk around the subject. They like to lead, with where they're going. Oh, so, you're here to talk about your court date. So what would you like to talk, how do you want to go about your case, your defense? Well, to contemplate that, I would prefer if me and you sat down and had a dialogue, game plan, strategical meeting to understand that not only am I going to be in court to defend myself, but defend myself against my accuser. And my accuser is going to be very difficult to fight against because he's an accusatory type of guy. So how do you think we should go about my defense? And I've killed myself because I have no idea what's happening. Just a straight answer would be great. If you could find one straight answer in this book, it would blow my mind because I never found one. It's really, at times, I felt like the dialogue was talking down to me. It was hard not to take offense a couple of times. Again, I'm well aware that that's on me. I'm well aware that it's my own low level of intellect that is the problem, and I'm fine with all that. I've made plenty of comforting deals with the demons that I harbor inside of me and my failings. But wow, so. All in all, I got to give this book a 3 out of 5. I can't say that I really liked it because honestly, I didn't fully follow all of it, and it really bothered me a lot that all the characters, all the people in this book were carbon copies. They might as well have been cardboard cutouts with the word NPC put on them because they were all the same. They all spoke the same. They all talked the same. They all had the same personalities. There was nothing different or interesting about any of them. The only way I could differentiate one from the other was their names, and even then, I got confused. It's just, and my main problem with it was really, really hard to follow. I wish he would have dumbed it down or made cliff notes or something because I just could not follow it the entire time. Easily 40 to 60% of this book was over my head. Just for a nonfiction entertainment type of thing, simpler language would be nice. Or just I'm not the target audience and I'm missing a point here. But I got to stick with my honest opinion of the book. 3 out of 5. It is interesting. It definitely held my attention. It's very, very well written. I just can't understand all of it, and I don't feel like the ending matches up with the main problem. Like for 2/3 of the book, you're like, okay, this is the situation we're here to fix. And by the end of the book, not only are we no closer to having a solution to the problem, but it's not there. I'll get all into it in more detail in the spoilers, but honestly, if you're up for a challenge and you're thinking that your vocabulary is good and everything like that, check the book out. The link is in the description, and when you're done, I'd love for you to come back and be like, no, this book was really easy for me to follow. Everything was great about it, and you're a moron. I won't argue. I won't be able to. I just can't. But by all means, check it out. Come back. We'll have a conversation. I'd love nothing more than that. So I'm going to go ahead and play my ad real quick, do the spoiler alert, and then we're going to get right into it. So buckle up. All right, in case you guys didn't already know, I am a self-published author, which is why I'm so passionate about self-published books. It's available on Amazon.com and paperback, Kindle, and Kindle Unlimited. If you're interested, the link's in the description. I'd really appreciate it. Checked out, left a review. So get ready, spoilers are coming up next, so if you're still here and the music stops, it's your fault. All right, you're still here, so let's get to it. So the book starts off, and there's this guy named Every, literally Every, which was confusing enough as it is, but I followed it. And he is a professor at Berkeley out of California. And he gets his students in the class, and he starts asking them. He basically, long story short, he got a ticket to Siberia where he found, when he got there, he saw two massive holes that were in the ground that were, unfathomably deep, full of eggs. And, well, one of the holes was full of eggs. And, by the way, both of these holes are the size of Rhode Island. Why it took them so long to find these holes, I don't know. But between the two holes, there was enough space that where a man could walk, like, single file. That would be it. So there's these two huge holes in the ground that go all the way down into the Earth's crust somewhere. I don't know if it explained how deep they went, but there's these massive holes. And on the ridge line, or on one of them, it's full of eggs. On the other one, it's full of dead bodies from all the different eras. It's the fossils, but from all the different eras of life in Earth prior to an extinction, right? So they've got all these genetic samples. They've got all these fossils, all this crazy stuff. The scientists of the world are flocking there like it's the new scientific mecca. And it makes sense. So all the governments are involved. America, Russia. If you can name the country, their government's involved. And they're sending their top minds there, which just so happen to be college professors for whatever reason. And the first college professor that we're introduced to, Every, he goes there, he sees these holes, and the reason they brought him is because of the pictographs that they found all along the edge of these holes, which basically show all sorts of different star patterns and stuff throughout Earth's history, and they also predict the extinction level events that occurred through each era. And not only that, but what percentage of the world's living creatures would be rendered extinct after this event to the perfect percentile, like perfect. And they also discover, after studying all this, that it also predicts humanity's level of extinction, which is 100%. So something in the near future is going to wipe out all life on the planet, all life completely on the planet. And although the creatures were smart enough to predict all this, they weren't smart enough to avoid it or prevent it or take precautions or any of that. Maybe if they didn't waste all their time digging big-ass holes and drawing stupid-ass pictures along the rim, they could have survived. But I digress. If they had, we wouldn't be here. So I guess thank you. But the first guy, he goes to this facility, and he's there for a few months, 5 months, 4 months, 3 months, somewhere in there. He's there for a few months. And when he gets back, he goes back to his job after buying a gun illegally, because, it's California, say what you will, their gun laws are strict. He buys a gun illegally, goes into his classroom, and again, in a real indirect dickhead way, really, he engages his students to figure out what he's been up to. He wants to tell them, but he's not supposed to. And I got to be honest with you, it makes me wonder why they would let this guy go back to his classroom in the States, where he could tell anyone about what they're going to, because obviously the governments all want to keep a lid on this stuff because, panic, extinction, yada, yada, yada. We've all seen 2012. And it's just one of those things where it's like, so they let him go back to talk to his students about this, knowing that this guy is mentally unstable. That is well documented. They know he's unstable, but they let him go back. He's mentally unstable. He tells all the kids all this stuff. He brings a gun into the classroom and scares the hell out of all these kids. And after he tells them what happened, a Marine and a Japanese foreign exchange student who gets 4 names by the end of the conversation. Again, this book was difficult for me to follow, and shit like that wasn't helping. he blows his brains out. He kills himself because after telling these students who aren't in positions to do anything about it, which you would think a college professor would know about, you would think that he would, I don't know, kidnap a CNN guy or a Fox News guy or MSNBC or whatever, somebody who could get the word out, not college kids that even if they did start spouting off of the mouth about it, no one's going to believe them. But whatever, I digress. The dude, again, his mental faculties weren't all there. He blows his head off because he's worried about what will happen to him when the government finds out that he's talking. Probably kill him or put him in a small cell for the rest of his life. So anyway, he blows his head off. You find out in the next chapter that he went to his buddy, this guy Alvin Bonham. Basically, he's a geologist. He's like a world-renowned geologist. Also happens to be working at Berkeley. They get all the good ones. And he goes to him and he's like, listen, I was just in Siberia. Crazy stuff there. You're going to get a ticket in the mail. No explanation, no return date, just a ticket in the mail to Siberia. You have to take it because I gave him your name. And he's like, why would I do that? Because curiosity and blah, blah, blah. And he's acting real strange. Anybody with even the basic level of understanding of human psyche, which you would suppose a college professor would have a little bit of training about that, especially given today's day and age, doesn't realize that this guy's suicidal as hell. And of course, you know, he gets the ticket about a week after his buddy blows his brains out, and he goes to Siberia. Where he goes and he's like, what am I here for? Because he sits around for months and then he pisses somebody off and he gets thrown in jail for like 3 months or like their prison, whatever their detainment center is, for a few months. Honestly, it kind of breaks him a little bit. He's a lot more cooperative, I'll say, with the rest of the group. And so right after they take him out of the jail cell, he goes to meet something that they call she. That's all they refer to. She. And he's like, what am I doing? What's going on? You're going to teach she everything you know about geology. She's learned everything else. She just needs geology now. She's struggling with that, so you need to teach her that. And he's like, who the hell is she? Can't tell you. You'll find out in a minute. So long story short, after going through a whole bunch of convoluted, decontamination centers and all this other stuff, he gets into this room with what he refers to as an abomination. So it turns out they've got a bunch of geneticists here on this site in Siberia, where they've got all those bones and all those eggs and everything like that in the two holes. Well, they were able to recreate a moth from like 18 million years ago or something like that. Some Arctic moth that's been extinct for 18 million years or something like that. They have one in a box flying around and they're studying it because they were able to reverse engineer it and bring it to life. Really cool, like some Jurassic Park stuff. So that's where I thought the book might be going. I was like, oh, okay, there's our extinction event. We're going to bring something back that we shouldn't. Kinda, because the next thing they did is they hatched one of the damn eggs. There's this Permian, which is probably the reason the book is called that, life form. They call it ma'am. It's a girl, I guess. It's this weird, for lack of a better way to describe it, it is a melted humanoid that kind of looks like a blobfish. I don't know. It's really weirdly put together. It's a ground crawling plant eater. It roots up stuff and eats it. But barring all that, it's the craziest, creepiest thing we've ever seen. We have no fossil record of these things whatsoever. We don't know what it is. We don't have any record of it, but it was the Permian era or whatever it is that this creature lived in. They evolved that their sense of smell was so great that they could smell the future. Again, please understand, I'm going to say this probably 3 more times. This book was super difficult for me to follow because it's written with super intelligent verbiage. The word choices that he used were way beyond me in a lot of ways. So again, it was very interesting. It was very curious, but I don't fully understand everything. So anyway, ma'am is what they call her, and that's her choice, by the way. She starts talking to this geologist, and basically she explains to him that while they don't have great sight, like very blurry, very bad sight, her sense of smell was developed in order to avoid predators and everything like that, but it evolved so exquisitely that they can see millions of years into the future. there's a chapter in this book where there's a whole bunch of the weird Permians running around, and they're talking about humans who won't exist for 90 million years or whatever the hell it is, like super far in the future. And it's so weird. I just don't understand. But they are the ones that made all the pictographs and were able to predict all the extinctions and everything like that. And she knows humanity's extinction is coming. She knows kind of when it is, but she won't tell them because apparently their sense of smell is not was not evolved without a sense of irony and dramatic effect. If she tells the individuals that are going to be directly affected by an event what happens, she loses her ability to smell the future. Yeah, that's what happens. So she can't directly tell them when it's going to happen or how it's going to happen or anything like that. But then she goes and she tells them about a solar flare that's going to be happening in like 3 minutes or some shit like that. I don't know, a very short amount of time that she ends up being wrong about, which of course deludes everybody thinking that she's nuts. Although their sense of smell also, I forgot, I'm sorry, she can smell what you're thinking. Like, it's not mind reading, it's mind snarfing. Her olfactory sense is so sophisticated that she can smell what you're going to say or what you're going to think or get a general idea and then know how to do all that. It never explains how she knows how to speak English or how to interact with us or anything like that. They do attach a little box to her so that she can talk, but it's just everything she just kind of knows because she was able to smell the future. You know? They had okay, so sure. She learned how to speak English and what humans were, and all this was going to happen, even though she didn't exist until after she was hatched because of some sort of racial memory, and she was able to sniff. It was hard for me to grasp. I'm not saying that it's not super creative and super intelligent, but it was hard for me to just wrap my mind around. It was too alien to me, which I guess this is what he was going for, so bravo. But it was like, what? So anyway, she is real elusive. She's real evasive. She doesn't like to explain anything. She kind of has him running in circles when it comes to what knowledge she really has. She doesn't really ever tell them anything. And really what they want to know, why they're talking to her, why they brought her into existence, is because they want to know when their extinction level event is and whether or not they can prevent it, whether or not we've got to start sending people to Mars now. I mean, what's the plan? What's going to cause all this? How do we get out of it? And she's like, well, I can't tell you that because if I do, I'll lose my ability to send stuff in the future. And it's like, we don't care. You know, so you need to tell us this shit. But they don't do that. Like, in my opinion, the government would send a couple of guys in there with a car battery and some electrical wires and be like, you're going to tell us or we're going to fry you. And then if you still don't tell us, we're going to kill you. Bring somebody else back, show them your body, and keep doing it until one of them goes, you know what? Horrible death or burn out of my future smell. I'm going to go ahead and burn out my future smell, which, by the way, might come back over time. There's no guarantee it will or won't, but it could come back. But she doesn't do it. She ends up telling him something else inconsequential, and her olfactory future sense gets burned out. So anyway, after a lot of talking around the subject and a lot of just kind of babbling, it was hard for me to follow. The Permian ma'am, she gets pregnant asexually. And a physician doctor who wasn't prevalent in the story until this moment figures it out because not only is she pregnant with an egg that she produced asexually, which she shouldn't have been able to do, but I guess she is, she's also lactating, but it's more like sweating mother's milk. Although the egg is still inside of her, it's an egg, and it's very weird. Very, very weird. So everybody freaks out that she's pregnant, and they're trying to decide whether or not the egg means, since she's elusive and evasive about and didn't tell anybody about it, the physician figured it out by breaking protocols. He actually wipes his finger down the lactation that looks like sweat and tastes it. I thought that was really gross. I was like, dude, you don't know what that is, whether it's poisonous or not. You have no idea. What if she got you pregnant with that stuff? But dude, that's what physicians do. Ooh, weird fluid. Yep, that's syphilis. Just so that's what he did. This world-renowned physician that presidents call when they're feeling sick wiped his finger down a weird Permian's body when it was sweating some sort of milky substance and tasted it. And figured out that she was pregnant because of it. Really convenient that something that lays an egg would lactate it through sweat glands that otherwise it wouldn't have because it had a sail in order to regulate body temperature. But they're warm-blooded, so the sail's not important. Again, I'm not smart enough for this book. I'm sorry. So anyway, Alvin and his cohorts need to figure out what this means. She's reproduced asexually for X reason. She's really, really evasive now, not answering any of their questions. It clams up a lot, and nobody's willing to waterboard her for the answers. They end up figuring out, due to a computer program, that she's dying because of the egg, but the egg is got different genetic makeup in order to survive in our world and our timeline and everything like that. Like, really convenient, I gotta be honest with you. But they figure all this out and they decide they're not sure if it means the end of humanity, if this is the extinction event or not. They're not really sure, but they decide, you know what, fine, we'll surgically remove the egg from her because she's dying otherwise. They do so. The egg is brought out before the mother dies. The mother does die. Ma'am dies. But the egg hatches, and within 2 months, it's walking, talking, and it looks a lot more like us. It's more adapted to our timeline and all that stuff. And it knows about the extinction event. It can smell the future or see the future or whatever it does in order to tell what the future is. But it won't tell humanity, because if it does, it'll lose its ability to see the future. And it's like, well, if you circumvent our extinction, we'll be able to manage after that. At one point, it's like, well, if I told this guy that he was about to get crushed by a log and I tell him and I burn out, sure, that farmer, that guy lives, but then the tornado that's over the town hits and kills everybody. Yeah, but you're telling me about the extinction level event that's going to kill everything on the planet. If we can circumvent that or avoid that or prep for that or survive that, you burning out is fine. But they don't touch on it again. They just, the offspring refuses to answer the question because it doesn't want to burn out its future sense, and they're just kind of okay with that. And then the book ends after a trial for the physician that figured out that Ma'am was pregnant, and that's it. The extinction level event's still happening eventually. It's eventually going to kill off all of us, and they're literally having a trial for the physician that broke protocols in order to determine that Ma'am was sick. He's basically defending what he did as the reason that we've got what we've got. And then the book just kind of ends, where they're debating what to call the new Permian, the offspring, whether it's P001 or P999. And it's very confusing. It's very difficult for me to understand what's going on. And the ending was so underwhelming. It really kind of bummed me out. Because I don't believe that this is a series. I believe that this was a standalone story. And it's just disappointing in the end. It's a real letdown. But like I said, in the non-spoiler review portion of this book, it was really difficult for me to follow because of the verbiage used. And I can literally go to any page and read a paragraph and boom, there you go. It's, let's see. It's, does deliberate genetic tinkering exist? Is that your actual question, Professor Bonham? Please do remind me which institution employs you. I would be delighted to visit the first public university beneath a rock. And it's just that level. It's just they talk around it's so frustrating. It's like just a straight fucking answer. I would shake the hell out of these guys. Just, hey, answer the question. I know you're smarter than me, but it's not going to stop you from getting your head caved in. I'm literally trying to survive the extinction level event of our species, and y'all are talking in circles. Just, my favorite part of the book is at one point, the one guy, the main-ish character, Alvin, he's surrounded by like 45 other PhDs. And he's like, I don't understand how there could be 45 other intellectual equals to me here. And none of them have husbands. None of them have wives. None of them have children. That's statistically unlikely. Very unlikely. I would even say impossible. And it's like, dude, I know why they're all single. Because if everybody talks the way you guys talk, none of you would have a conversation that would lead to a first date, let alone a relationship that actually could produce children. Because I'm aggravated talking to or listening to you talk after 4 pages. Y'all are some scumbags. Super book smart, but zero social skills. That's why there's so many virgins here, which is actually said in the book, which is great. Alvin was the one guy that I actually could have probably liked in real life. I know they don't really exist. Leave me alone. But it's very difficult to follow for me. But again, don't take my word for it. Check the book out. The link is in the description below. This is a 3 out of 5 star book for the reasons that I've mentioned before. It was super hard for me to follow. The ending is a huge letdown, and the characters are all the same. They all talk the same. They all speak the same. They all have the same mannerisms. They all have the same vocabulary. It's mind-numbing. It's super difficult for me to follow. And despite all that, it's such an interesting story. It's got such a hook to it that I enjoyed it. I still enjoyed it. It's a 3. I got to give it 3 out of 5. Yeah, I can't go any further either direction. So that's going to do it for this one, guys. Like I said, feel free to read it. Feel free to come back and have a discussion with me. Tell me that you think I'm crazy. Tell me that you think I'm right. Tell me to go take a long walk off a short cliff. Whatever. It'll be a conversation. It'll be fun. And as always, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or complaints, feel free to put them in the comment section below, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. But as always, thanks.